Have you ever looked at a loved one and suddenly felt time slipping away? A silent reminder that nothing lasts forever. That's the heart of my mother at 66. Hello and welcome, curious minds, to the Eloquent Explorers. Today, we journey into Kamala Das's deeply personal poem, My Mother at 66, where a daughter observes her aging mother during a car ride and is struck by the fear of separation. With simple yet powerful imagery, Kamala Das captures the universal emotions of love, mortality, and the struggle to mask pain with a smile. The significance of this poem lies in how it blends the private with the universal, turning a personal moment into a meditation on aging, loss, and human attachment. For grade 12 CBSE students, it's a key text on themes of mortality and love, while for PGT aspirants, it showcases Kamala Das's confessional style and her ability to transform everyday moments into poignant poetry. Going to cover about the author, setting, introduction, main characters, detailed explanation of the poem, which will be line by line, literary devices that will be discussed in great detail, significance of the title, significance of the chapter, then we have themes, tone, mood, style, a quick recap, and finally we will end with the discussion of the message that we get from this poem. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now that we have seen the index and understood the structure of this video, let us get to know our author so that we can connect to the poem and we can relate and understand the background of the poem as well. Now, our poet Kamala Das was born in Malabar in Kerala, and she was born in 1934 and she passed away in 2009. She's been recognized as one of India's foremost poets of the post-independence era. She wrote both in English and Malayalam, and she wrote under the pen name Madhavi Kuti. Okay, so this pen name is very important from the perspectives of PGT exams. Okay, she's known for her originality, versatility, and the indigenous flavor of the soil. So her writings, you will see, will include originality. They'll be versatile. She's written in various. She's written about various topics and in various manners, and they all represent her roots. They all represent the indigeneity of the soil. Okay, of her background. All right. She's also authored many novels, short stories, and 5 acclaimed poetry collections. Her works are celebrated for capturing the complex subtleties of human relationships in a lyrical and confessional idiom. Okay, so her work are known for capturing. When you read her works, you will see how very subtly, very quietly, very plainly, in plain sight, she has captured the complexities of human relationships, and they have been captured in a lyrical and confessional idiom. Like she's written this poem also in a confessional way. Okay, showing her feelings, confessing her feelings for her mother, for her aging mother, and then making it as a universal feeling that everybody can connect with. Okay, so similarly, that's how she writes her works. Okay, she's associated with the confessional mode of poetry, like Sylvia Plath and Anne Sexton in the West. She's received several honors, including Sahitya Academy Award in 1985, another important point for PCT perspective. She has also been shortlisted for Nobel Prize in Literature. Okay, she was shortlisted. She hasn't won it yet. Okay. My Mother at 66 is a fine example of a sensitive exploration of love, loss, aging, and human emotions. Okay, so this poem that we're going to read um, in this video, this is a fine example of how sensitively she explores love, she explores loss, she explores aging, and how human emotions are connected with all these. All right, so I hope you've understood about the poet. And now let's move on to know the setting of the poem. Now, the setting of the poem is inside a car that is journeying to the airport. Okay, so our poet is going from her place, from her parents' place to the airport along with her mother. The setting also shows the passing scenery, trees, children. This contrasts with the stillness of her mother's aging figure. Okay, now in this poem, we will see that her mother is asleep on the passenger seat. Okay, so that, and while she's asleep, she's very still. Okay, she's very calm, and her face shows her age. Okay, and that stillness has been contrasted with the passing scenery. Now, as the car moves, it feels like the scenery is moving. Okay, so that contrast has been shown here, that the trees are moving the tree very fast and the children are running. So that contrast is also the setting of this poem.
Before we dive deep into the poem, let me share a crisp overview with you and then we will discuss the main characters. First, the overview. My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das is a tender, reflective poem that explores the universal themes of love, aging, and the fear of separation. In a few simple yet powerful lines, the poet captures the delicate bond between a daughter and her mother, weaving together images of vitality, fragility, and the passage of time. It's a deeply human poem that makes us pause and think about relationships we often take for granted. The main characters that are there in this poem are first the poet Kamala Das herself. She's a daughter who's torn between duty, love, and the fear of separation. And then we have her mother, frail, aging, silently embodying the universal truth of mortality.
And it's finally time to discuss this very short and very sweet poem in detail. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday, now it's finally time to read this poem and understand this very short, sweet poem. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doors open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. But soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport's security check, standing a few yards away, I looked at her, wan, pale, as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, "See you soon, Amma," and all I did was smile and smile and smile. Okay, so that's it. That's how short this poem is. Very short, very sweet, very real. Okay, so now let's understand what is happening. Now, our poet is driving from her parents' house to Cochin. Okay, she's going to Cochin from her parents' house, and this is an incident of a Friday that's past. Okay, so she's talking about last Friday when she was driving from her parents' house to Cochin, from where she had to catch a flight. Okay, And while she was driving, her mother was sleeping next to her. Okay, in the car, her mother was sleeping. Now, while driving, very casually, she looks at her mother, and then she realizes that when she saw her mother next to her, and her mother was dozing, she was sleeping, open mouthed, you know, and that's where she realizes that her face was ashen, it was white, like that of a corpse. Okay, a corpse is a dead body. All right, it's a dead body. Okay, so she realizes, and with pain, with sorrow, she realizes that her mother was now as old as she looked. Okay, there have been multiple times, especially when you come to age of late 20s and late 30s, and as you grow and your parents grow older. Okay, now suddenly you will one day look at your parents, at your mother, at your father, and you will realize that, oh, they're growing old, they're older, they're now paler. Okay, their life, their energy, it's all reducing. Okay, and the life is about to come to an end. All right, so that is what this poet Kamala Das, she has realized looking at her mother. And it's a very painful realization that you know that you will not have enough time with your parents. Okay, someday they will be gone, and that those signs are now visible on their face, on their body, the way they work, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's what she's realized in this car ride, that her mother's face was ashen, it was pale, it was white, like that of a corpse. Okay, and that's where she realized that her mother was now as old as she looked. Okay, she was very old. But soon, okay, yes, that thought comes in all our minds for a moment. Okay, and then we just push that thought away because it's really painful. Nobody can imagine, nobody can, live with the thought that they're going to lose their parents one day. So, yes, that painful thought comes in everybody's mind at some time or the other. And see, this is what we talked about. This is a personal realization, and yet it is so universal that anybody sitting anywhere will be able to connect with this. All right. So now she very quickly, as soon as the thought came, she very quickly put that thought away. She pressed that thought away. Okay. And then she, to change her mind, she looks out at the young trees sprinting. All right. And the merry children spilling out of their home. Okay. Now, to change your mind, she's watching the young trees. Now, when you're driving, it feels like the trees are running, the scenery is moving. Okay. When you're riding a car, or when you're traveling in a train, in a bus, okay, and that vehicle is moving, it feels like the scenery is moving and we are stationary. Okay, so now that contrast. Now we see that contrast here, that she has made of her sleeping mother, who is very still, who's old, who's not moving, and looks like a corpse. She's contrasted that with the movement, with life. Okay, life of young trees that seem like they are running. Okay, sprinting is running very fast. All right. And the merry children, the small children, the happy children that are running out of their hopes. That is where we see the contrast between the mother, who's kind of symbolizing approaching death, okay, approaching stillness, and between the trees and the little children, the young trees and the little children that show life, okay, that symbolize life. But then again, at the airport, but then after the airport security check, okay, again, she looks at her mother, who is worn, which is colorless and pale. Okay, so you see how older, as people get older, they lose their color. Okay, they look pale and tired. Okay, so now she's used uh, simile as late, as a late winter's moon. Okay, This is a simile that she is used to describe her mother's looks. Okay, that is as late as winter's moon. So when you see a winter's moon, it's generally covered by clouds. Okay, so it's not very bright. It's not, and or sometimes there is mist. Okay, in areas like Delhi and UP, there's going to be fog. All right, so the late winter's moon is not as bright, and that is what where she's comparing, that is how she's comparing, that is how she's telling us that how pale her mother's face now looks, how tired, how colorless her mother's face looks, and felt that odd familiar ache. Now she feels that odd familiar pain again. Okay, it's a familiar pain. It keeps coming and going. That realization keeps hitting us that we may lose our parents any day. Okay, and especially when they're growing older, when they're growing old, we get that feeling over and over again at in lesser spans. Okay. So now she feels that familiar ache that maybe the next time she has to come back, she may not see her mother. Okay. Maybe while she's, you know, where she's supposed to be, and she may get a call one day that her mother has passed away. All right. So that same ache, that familiar ache, is what she feels while she's waving her mother goodbye. Okay. But her childhood fear, even children fear that they may lose their parents. Okay, so we all fear that we may lose our parents because we are very deeply connected with them. Okay, and we love them so much that we are very scared of losing them. All right, but all this she suppresses inside. Okay, and all she says to her mother is that she will see her soon, and all she does is smile and smile and smile. So I hope this very short, very sweet, and very relatable poem is clear to you. It's written in very simple words, and it's confessional. Okay, she's confessing her own feelings about her mother, about separation, about love for her mother, and the fear of loss and of separation from her mother. Okay, so we end the poem here, and in the next section, now we're going to discuss the literary devices that have been used in this poem in great detail. All right, we begin with the first and the easiest literary device to spot, which is simile. Okay, so here we have two examples of simile. First one is her face, that is face ashen like that of a corpse. Okay, so simile is basically comparison of two different things with the use of like or as. Okay, so that's why it's very easy to spot. The first one we have like, where we see the comparison of a mother's pale face to a dead body, highlighting fragility and the closeness of death. Okay. And the second one is as a late winter's moon. Now, again, her mother's pale face was compared to how the late winter's moon looks. Okay, so here again we see that her mother's aging face has been compared to the dim, fading winter moon, which symbolizes weakness, transience, and the loss of vitality. Okay, so here you see that her face has been compared to a corpse, and also her aging face has been compared to this fading winter's moon. All right. Next is imagery. We see imagery has been used throughout this poem in okay, and it's a beautiful imagery. We can imagine, we can visualize everything that the poet has written. Okay, so majorly the examples of imagery include young trees printing, okay, which kind of creates a moving visual of life and energy outside the car window, which is now, as I told you, which is contrasting with her mother's stillness. Okay, so we can visualize how the mother is sleeping, okay, and is very still, and then we can also visualize how trees are sprinting, which shows life, burst of life and energy. All right. Then we have children spilling out of their homes. Again, this is a visual image of carefree youth and vitality. Okay, so again, there is this comparison of the stillness of mother to the vitality, to the carefree youth of the children. Okay, the energy again, the burst of energy that children come out with, that children run with, that children have. Okay, now both these images they emphasize the contrast between life, which is youth, growth, and activity, and death, which is aging, stillness, and fading. Okay, so both these images, through both these images, we can see that there's a contrast shown between life and death. Life represented by youth, represented by growth, represented by activity. Okay, and death, which has been represented by aging, by stillness, and by fading. Okay, so I hope now imagery is clear. Symbolism: her mother's pale face symbolizes mortality, fragility. Okay, fragility is weakness or something that can be broken or something that can be destroyed easily. Okay, and mortality is that when you know that something can die, that's mortality. Okay, sprinting trees they show vitality. Okay, sprinting trees they show vitality, continuity of life, and movement of time. Okay, so when the trees are sprinting, when the trees are running, they show vitality. Vitality is that they are healthy, they are running, they are moving. Okay, they have that burst of life and energy. Then they also show continuity of life. Okay, and they show how time moves. The passage of time is also shown through, the symbolism of sprinting trees. All right, children, they are symbolism for innocence, renewal, and energy. And late winter's moon is a symbolism for decline, for aging, and loss of radiance. I hope symbolism is clear to you. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask questions in the comments and I will definitely answer them. Next is repetition. Uh, at the end, she finally just says that all she does is smile, smile, and smile. So, this actually suggests the poet's forced effort to hide her grief and reassure both herself and her mother. Okay, so she's written this, she's repeated the word smile, smile, and smile to emphasize, okay, that she is has been forced, she's forcing herself to be happy, to show, to not let her mother know that she's scared of losing her, to give herself and her mother the strength to keep moving. All right, and a reassurance for herself and for her mother both. Okay, she's trying to hide her grief through this repetition of the word smile, smile, and smile. Next is alliteration, my mother. Okay, soft repetition of M sound adds tenderness and intimacy. While we are at alliteration, please let me explain this point to you because a lot of people get very confused with alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds. Okay, consonant sound, not the repetition of consonant, not the repetition of consonant, but consonant sounds. Okay, so if the sound is somewhat like cat, if the word is cat and kite, it will be considered as alliteration. And also it is initial consonant sounds. Okay, the first sounds, not anything else. So it's, and if there is something like, let's say, celery and c, okay, it's still alliteration. But if it is something like, let's say, cat and chat, this is not alliteration because we are not talking about the repetition of consonants, we are talking about the repetition of consonant sounds. Okay, so the sound should be repeating. The sound should be the same. Even though the letters could be different, like here celery and C, and here cat and kite. Okay, so please remember, please do not get confused with alliteration. Uh, it is the repetition of initial consonant sounds. Sounds is the main point. Okay, of course, initial and consonants, but sounds is where we have to focus on. Okay, and um, not just the consonants. Okay, so please remember, even if the consonants are different, but they are sounding the same. Initial consonants are different, but they're sounding the same. It is alliteration. And if the consonants are same but the sounds are different, it is not alliteration. Next is contrast or juxtaposition. Juxtaposition is when you put two contrasting things together. Okay, that is what is juxtaposition. Now here you can see mother's aging pale face has been put together with young trees and lively children. Okay, so these are two opposite things. Two opposite things. Remember, juxtaposition is two opposite things have been placed together. Things or characteristics that have been placed together to show contrast, of course. Together, or you can say next to each other, together, or next to each other. All right. So that is juxtaposition. Other examples of juxtaposition you can see mortality and vitality both are opposites and they have been placed together. Stillness and motion. Stillness of the sleeping mother and motion of the young tree sprinting, the children running. Okay, now this why has contrast been used or why has juxtaposition been used? Because this deepens the emotional conflict in the poet's mind. Okay, because this is a very this is a great way to tell the depth of the emotional conflict, okay, that the poet has to talk about her mother's mortality, and on the other hand think about vitality. Okay, think about life while thinking about death. Okay, so that is why juxtaposition has been used. Next, metaphor. Now, this is an implied metaphor where we see that the airport, it symbolizes separation and the inevitability of parting. Okay, so here we see that first implied metaphor, or the metaphor that we understand from this poem, is that there is a symbolism of airport. The airport is kind of showing us that it is symbolizing that separation is happening. Okay, the poet Kamala Das is going back to wherever or going somewhere from wherever she's for wherever she's headed to, and her mother is going to stay back. Okay, so there is separation between mother and daughter, and the airport serves as that symbol of separation, and it also serves that parting is inevitable. It is something that cannot be avoided. Okay, so they both have to go their separate ways. They both have to uh, separate at some point. Parting is it's something very necessary and something that cannot be avoided. Then the journey in the car, we see the journey in the car, it reflects the journey of life towards old age and death. Okay, so you can also say that the airport symbolizes threshold between life and death. Okay, between people who remain and people who leave. Okay, that can also be a symbolism. And then this journey that we see of the car, it reflects, it shows us that it is also kind of a symbolism for journey of life towards old age and death. So there are two metaphors that have been implied in this poem. That first, airport symbolizes separation, and that parting is something that cannot be avoided. Okay, and the journey of the car, it reflects the journey of life towards old age, and finally death. Next, we have enjambment. You see that the poem, it has the poem is has no punctuations. Okay, it is not like you have ending words that are rhyming. So this is enjambment when lines flow. Okay, for example, here you see driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning. Now this is one line, driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, but it has been divided into different lines. Okay, so um this is flowing without punctuation at the end of many lines, and that why has enjambment been used in this poem? Because it is mirroring the natural unbroken thought process of the poet. Okay, we don't think in specific sentences like I met my mother today, full stop. No, the thought flows. Okay, when you get a thought, it flows without any punctuations, without any stop. So that is what has been depicted here through this poem, the style of writing and using enjambment in this poem. That this is a thought process. This whole poem is one thought process. Okay, this is one thought that has conflicting minor thoughts that have come into the mind of our poet. Okay, so now you won't expect someone to think in proper punctuated sentences, right? Thought comes naturally, it's a natural process, and hence that natural process of no punctuations or very minor punctuations, okay, that has been reflected by the use of enjambment in the entire poem. Okay, the entire poem we can understand is one thought process. Okay, this is one thought process. Or you can say this is one thought, and that has been depicted through enjambment without any break. Next is personification. Here we see the young tree sprinting. Sprinting is an action that only humans can perform. Okay, but trees have been given human ability to run, enhancing the imagery of speed, growth, and vitality. Okay, so why personification has been used? First, personification is when you give human ability or human characteristics to non-human. Okay, no, it's not just non-living, to non-human entities. Okay, personification is giving human attributes to non-human entities. All right. So remember that it's not non-living, it's non-human. Very important. Another point people get confused in. Okay, so when you personify, you're giving human attributes, human characteristics, human, abilities to non-human entities, to non-human things like trees, like animals, birds. These are all non-human, but they are living. Okay, and of course to non-living things also, hence we use non-human. All right, so now trees have been given the human ability to run, enhancing the imagery of speed, of growth, and vitality. Next we have finally irony. The poet smiles outwardly but inwardly fears death. Okay, or separation, actually separation of her from her mother, or the death of her mother. So here she is on the outside. You see the irony that she is smiling. Okay, she's showing that she's happy, and she's separating. But on the inside, she's fearing, she's feeling that pain of separation. Okay, and the fear of death. So fear and grief. So that's the irony of in this poem. I hope the literary devices are clear to you, because in poetry it's a very important aspect. Okay, literary devices can be asked in exams as well. So it's very important, it's very crucial to understand each and every literary device in detail, in depth. If you still have any doubts left, if you still have any problem with literary devices, feel free to ask in the comments, and I will definitely answer them. Okay. Let us now discuss the significance of the title. First, it is direct. Okay, My Mother at 66, the title is very direct, confessional, and personal. Okay, Then it highlights the intimate relationship between the poet and her mother. I have explained this to you multiple times, so I hope this is not going to create any problem now. It's not difficult to understand anymore. Now, this stresses the universality of aging and mortality. Anyone with aging parents can relate. Okay, actually, everyone can relate because everybody is aging. We are all growing, our parents are growing. Okay, so our parents are getting older, and we are also getting older. So, we can all relate to this feeling of aging, of mortality, of death that is approaching. Okay, so yes, we can all relate to this poem, and that's why it is very personal and yet very universal. Next, we have significance of the chapter. It's a deeply emotional yet restrained poem that captures the tension between love and fear of loss. It offers a universal experience watching loved ones age and realizing the inevitability of separation. Finally, it teaches us to face mortality not with despair, but with quiet courage and acceptance. Okay, so it is, you can see that this poem is very deeply emotional. Okay, everyone who reads this poem will feel that pain of separation from the parents and from the loved ones, yet it is restrained. Okay, it's not an ongoing discussion about the loss, about the pain, okay, about the fear. It is, she touches the subject and then restrains herself and then calms herself, and she finally captures this tension between love and the fear of loss. Finally, it offers a universal experience, as we've seen, that everybody is watching their loved ones age. Even our friends are aging. Even though they're aging along with us, they're aging. Okay, our loved ones, our parents, our grandparents, our other family members, brothers, sisters, they are all aging. Okay, so this is a universal experience of watching our loved ones grow older and then realizing that separation is inevitable. You cannot avoid separation. Someday or the other, we will all be separated. Okay, we will all have to choose our path and continue moving on them. All right. And then finally, it teaches us to face mortality, not with sadness, but with quite courage and acceptance. Like how, towards the end, our poet says that all she says is that she will see her mother soon. Okay. And all she does is smile, smile, and smile. Even though she's feeling that pain, she has still accepted that mortality is real, but not with sadness, but with the quiet courage, and she's finally accepted it. Okay, so I hope the significance of the chapter and the title are both clear to you. Now, let's quickly discuss the themes that we have come across in this poem. First, aging and mortality. Second, parent child bond. Third, fear of separation. Fourth, contrast of life and death. And finally, acceptance with courage. Now, I am not explaining all these in detail because we have discussed all these themes over and over again multiple times in this entire video. So I hope you can understand and expand these themes while you write the answers on your own. If you still have any trouble with understanding of these themes and how they have been used, feel free to ask your doubts in the comment box. Okay. If you want, I will just very quickly go through each of them. Aging and mortality, the growing age of mother and how she's nearing death. Parent child bond, the bond between the daughter, that is Kamala Das, and her mother. Fear of separation, how Kamala Das feels that maybe she'll see her mother next time, maybe not. Okay, the uncertainty of life, then contrast of life and death. Life represented by young trees that have been that were sprinting, and children merry children, happy children that were spilling out of their homes, and death, shown or symbolized through the mother, okay, the aging mother. And finally, acceptance with courage, okay, that I just explained in detail. Next, let's look at the tone, the mood, and the style of the poem, the writing. First, the tone is emotional, it's tender, it's reflective, yet restrained. Okay, it's not going on and rambling. It's it's restrained. Okay, she has restrained herself, and you know she has controlled her emotions. All right, so yes, it is emotional, it is very tender, very soft, very reflective, but still it is restrained. Then the mood, it's a blend of sadness, nostalgia, and quiet courage, and how she has shown acceptance of the inevitable. Okay, finally, the style of writing is free verse. There is no rhyme scheme. It mirrors natural thought flow. All right, it is simple, direct diction, very simple words, but it's layered with symbolism. Okay. It's a confessional style. It is intimate and personal. She's confessed her own feelings, and yet somehow, though her feelings are very universal, and it makes it easy for people to connect. Okay, so it's a free verse. There is no definite word structure. There is no rhyme scheme. Good for you. You won't have to remember any in this poem. And then why that has been done? Because here she's mirroring, she's copying the natural thought flow. Okay, then it is very simple. There is direct diction, very simple words have been used, no complexities. Yet she has layered with symbolism, so that's where it becomes a little complex, but it is very easy to understand and very easy to connect. And finally, the style in which she's written is called confessional style, where which is very intimate, very personal. She's written in first person, so it is her confession. Okay, it is a very personal confession, and that confession is also very universal. Okay, it helps everyone connect. Now let's quickly take a look at the summary. The poet Kamala Das is on her way to the airport with her mother. She notices her mother's pale, aging face, which reminds her of death. To avoid the painful thought, she looks outside the car at young trees and children playing. These are symbols of life and vitality. Before leaving, she looks at her mother again and compares her to a late winter's moon, which is dim, weak, yet beautiful. Despite her fear of losing her, she smiles and says, "See you soon, Amma." Okay, a very simple, very short, sweet poem and very easy to understand. We have finally reached the last section of this, or the last slide of this video, the message or the moral that we can get from this chapter. Okay, first is that aging and death are both natural but painful realities. Okay, this we know that both aging and death and even life, they are all very natural. Okay, they happen on their own. But life, which is a happy reality, aging and death are actually painful realities. Okay, we all know that we are aging, our parents are aging, our loved ones are aging, our friends are aging, and we know that it's a reality. Okay, but it's really very painful. Okay, so aging and death are natural, but they are painful realities. Then the next message we get is that the parent child bond is eternal, yet separation is inevitable. Okay, the bond that the parents share with the children and the children share with their parents, it is eternal, it always stays. There are some people that have lost their parents, but they still revere their parents, they still love their parents. Okay, and so the bond is eternal, but the separation, the sad reality, that separation is, it is inevitable. Okay, you cannot avoid separation, you cannot escape separation. And separation is not just death. There are children who are living away from their parents in order to work, in order to study, and there are females that get married and move to their in-laws' houses. Okay, so the separation happens, even if it happens due to job, due to education, due to different laws of or due to different you can say necessities. All right, so separation is inevitable, it will happen in some way or the other, but the bond that the parents share with their children and the children share with their parents it's eternal, it never ends. Okay. Finally, the last message we get is that life continues with its vitality even as individuals age and fade. Okay, so life will continue no matter how many people have come and gone. Okay, so many people have come, they have lived their lives, they have passed on, but the life continues. Okay, we are here one day, we may not be here tomorrow, but the life is not going to stop. Okay, there will be other people who will be living, all right, and other things that will be living. So life continues with its vitality as it has continued. Even though individuals they age and they fade, they come and they go, life does not stop for anyone. Okay, so these three are the messages or the morals that we get from this poem. I hope you have understood the significance of this poem and why it has been given to you as a chapter. Okay, it's for you to understand the realities of life and also to understand a way of writing, of thought process. Okay, and of course, if you have, it's a very short, sweet poem, it's a very relatable poem. But if you have any doubts, if you still have queries left, feel free to ask via the comments in the on the comment in the comment section on YouTube. Okay, and if you feel that you need to connect, you can write there, and I will definitely answer your queries and come up with the next video very soon.
And that was My Mother at 66, a poem where silence speaks louder than words, and a fleeting car ride becomes a timeless reflection on life, death, and love. For your exams, remember, the central theme is not just old age, but the emotional conflict of the speaker, torn between the fear of losing her mother and the need to move on with courage. If this touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Eloquent Explorers. For free PDFs and notes, join our Telegram channel, and for daily quizzes and practice, hop onto our WhatsApp channels. Links are in the description. Keep exploring, keep questioning, because every poem has a heartbeat waiting to be heard.